The red star called Kepler 442 burned quietly in the darkness of space. Most beings in the galaxy thought this star was useless. Its planets were too cold, too rocky, and too far from the busy trade routes that connected the great alien empires. For 300 years, no one had bothered to look closely at this forgotten corner of space. But they were wrong. Deep beneath the rocky surface of the second planet, millions of humans lived and worked in vast underground cities. Above ground, huge machines slowly changed the air and water, making the world more like Earth. Green plants now grew where once there had been only dust and stone. Rivers flowed where ancient impact craters used to be. The humans called their new world Haven, and it had become exactly that. Elena Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of New Geneva, the largest city on Haven. Through the clear dome above her head, she could see the artificial aurora that danced across the night sky. The lights were not just beautiful. They were part of the planet's new magnetic field, created by human technology to protect their world from dangerous radiation. Elena was the great-great-granddaughter of Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the original colonists who had arrived on the ship called New Horizon. That was 3 centuries ago, when Earth was dying and humans were fighting endless wars. The 50,000 people on that ship had been looking for a new start, far away from the problems of their old world. "The morning shift is ready to begin terraforming Sector 12, said Marcus, Elena's assistant. He was young, only 25, but like all Haven-born humans, he had grown up learning advanced science and engineering. On Haven, every person needed to understand how their technology worked because their survival depended on it. Elena nodded and walked to the control center. Holographic displays showed her the status of terraforming operations across the planet. Massive atmospheric processors were slowly adding oxygen to the air. Underground reactors provided clean energy to power cities that housed over 200 million people. Orbital shipyards built vessels that used technology the galaxy had never seen. The humans of Haven had not been sitting idle during their 3 centuries of isolation. While the great alien empires grew fat and lazy with their old technology, humanity had been forced to innovate or die. They had created materials stronger than anything known to galactic science. Their computers could think faster than the best alien artificial minds. Their ships could travel through space in ways that seemed impossible. But perhaps most importantly, they had learned to work together. The old Earth had been divided by nations, religions, and ideologies. Haven was united by a simple goal: survival and prosperity for all humans. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor walked through the corridors of Orbital Station Alpha, the largest space platform in the Kepler 442 system. The station looked like a massive ring around Haven, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden within its structure were weapon systems that could defend against entire fleets. The station also served as a shipyard, research facility, and early warning system. Sarah was the descendant of Admiral Marcus Chen, one of the original military leaders who had guided the colony ship to safety. The Chen family had served Haven's defense forces for generations, always preparing for the day when their isolation might end. "Admiral, we're detecting something unusual," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the sensor station. The young officer's voice was calm, but Sarah could hear the tension underneath. "Long-range sensors show a large fleet approaching from the direction of Zephyrian space." Sarah felt her heart rate increase, but her expression remained steady. This was the moment they had all been trained for. "How large is the fleet, and how long until they arrive?" 12 ships, all heavy cruiser class or larger. They'll reach the outer system in approximately 18 hours at their current speed. Theo, Admiral looked at the tactical display that showed the approaching ships. The Zephyrian Empire was one of the most aggressive powers in the galaxy. They expanded by claiming empty systems and forcing out anyone who was already there. According to galactic law, they had the right to do this if a system was not officially claimed by a recognized government. Of course, the Galactic Council had never recognized Haven's government because they had never known it existed. "Send a message to Chancellor Santos," Sarah ordered. "Tell her we have visitors coming and they probably don't know we're here." Chancellor Maria Santos had been elected leader of Haven just 2 years earlier. She was young for such a position, only 43, but she had the intelligence and strength that the colony needed. Her office was located in the government district of New Geneva, in a building that looked modest from the outside but contained some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. When Admiral Chen Okafor's message arrived, Maria was in a meeting with the heads of Haven's various departments. Dr. Kim Walsh led the science division that had developed their advanced technology. General Robert Hayes commanded the planetary defense forces. Economic Director Lisa Park managed trade between Haven's many cities and orbital stations. "So it's finally happening," Maria said after reading the Admiral's report. 300 years of hiding, and now we have to decide what kind of neighbors we want to be." Dr. Walsh leaned forward in her chair. "Our technology is far ahead of, anything the Zephyrians have. We could easily defend ourselves if they try to attack us. The question is whether we want to reveal ourselves at all," General Hayes added. "We could hide our cities and let them think the system is empty. They might just survey the planets and leave." Maria stood up and walked to the window that showed the bustling city outside. Humans of all ages moved through the streets, going about their daily lives in peace and prosperity. Children played in parks filled with earth plants that had been carefully adapted to Haven's environment. Adults worked in laboratories and factories that produced wonders the galaxy had never imagined. "We've spent 3 centuries building something amazing here," she said. "But we always knew this day would come. We can't hide forever, and I don't think we should. The galaxy sees humans as weak and primitive. Maybe it's time to show them what we've really accomplished." The Chancellor turned back to her advisors. "Prepare our ships and defense systems, but don't hide them. If the Zephyrians want to claim our home, let them see exactly what they're dealing with. And send a message to all departments. It's time to implement First Contact Protocol." As news of the approaching fleet spread through Haven cities, people remained calm. They had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. In schools, children learned about the galaxy beyond their system and the challenges they might face. In factories, workers checked the production of defensive systems. In orbital shipyards, engineers made final preparations on vessels that would shock anyone who saw them. The humans of Haven were no longer the desperate refugees who had fled Earth 3 centuries ago. They were a civilization that had turned a dead world into a paradise. They had technology that seemed like magic. Most importantly, they had something that the great alien empires had forgotten: the determination to fight for their home and the unity to stand together against any threat. The red star Kepler 442 continued to burn quietly in space, but its secret was about to be revealed. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had not been sitting quietly in their small corner of space. They had been growing stronger, smarter, and more dangerous with each passing year. The Zephyrian fleet was approaching, expecting to find empty worlds ready for conquest. Instead, they were about to encounter a force that would change everything they thought they knew about humans and their place in the galaxy. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial survey ship Dominant Will. The massive vessel was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. Behind him, 11 other Zephyrian warships moved through space in perfect formation. This was supposed to be a simple operation: survey the empty Kepler 442 system, claim it for the Empire, and begin preparations for colonization. The Zephyrians were a proud warrior race that had built their empire by conquering weaker species. They were tall, with tough gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Their eyes could see heat signatures, and their minds were naturally good at tactical thinking. They had been expanding their territory for over 1,000 years, and no one had ever successfully resisted them. "Captain, we're approaching the target system," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Sekhan. Initial scans show... Wait, that's... impossible. Veltar moved to the sensor station, his claws clicking on the metal floor. What are you seeing, Lieutenant? Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. There are artificial structures around the second planet, and the planet itself shows signs of terraforming. But according to our records, this system is uninhabited. The captain's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the sensor readings. The data showed cities, orbital stations, and ships that definitely belonged to some kind of advanced civilization. This was not supposed to be here. Could it be a lost colony from one of the major powers? He asked his intelligence officer. No, sir. The technology signatures don't match anything in our databases. The power sources are completely unknown, and the ship designs are unlike anything we've seen before. Veltar felt the first touch of unease. In his 30 years of military service, he had never encountered a situation like this. Unknown civilizations were extremely rare in the explored galaxy. Most species had been contacted centuries ago and were members of the Galactic Council. Send a standard hail, he ordered. Let's find out who these people are. The communication came through clearly, and the face that appeared on the main screen made Veltar's mandibles click in shock. The being looking back at him was clearly human. The same species that barely rated council membership and was known throughout the galaxy for being primitive and weak. But this human looked different from the ones Veltar had seen in diplomatic meetings. She was calm and confident, with intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through him. Her uniform was made of materials that seemed to shift and shimmer in the light. I am Chancellor Maria Santos of the Haven Republic, the human woman said in perfect galactic standard. You are in violation of our territorial space. Please state your intentions. Veltar recovered from his surprise and allowed himself to show his amusement. This had to be some kind of joke. Humans were barely capable of spaceflight, and they certainly didn't have colonies outside their home system. Human, you have no authority here, he said, letting his claws extend to show his weapon readiness. The Zephyrian Empire claims this. System under Galactic Council Resolution 2847. You will evacuate immediately or be removed by force. The human's expression didn't change at all. She looked at him as if he were a child making unreasonable demands. Captain, she said calmly, I'll give you 1 hour to leave our system. This is your only warning. Veltar was so amazed by the human's boldness that he actually laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his bridge. His crew members also showed their amusement in various ways. The idea that a single human colony could threaten a Zephyrian battle fleet was beyond ridiculous. Close the channel, he ordered. Prepare to move toward the second planet. We'll show these humans what happens when they try to interfere with the Empire. As his fleet began moving deeper into the system, Veltar felt completely confident. His 12 ships carried enough firepower to level continents. His soldiers were the best trained warriors in the galaxy. These confused humans would surrender quickly once they saw what they were facing. But as the fleet approached Haven, strange things began to happen. The Zephyrian sensors started detecting energy signatures that made no sense. The space around the planet seemed to be filled with objects that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Most disturbing of all, every attempt to scan the human ships resulted in complete system failures. Captain, our targeting systems are malfunctioning, reported Weapons Officer Colvex. Every time we try to lock onto one of their vessels, our computers crash and restart. That's impossible, Veltar snarled. Our systems are protected by the best security in the galaxy. Sir, you need to see this, called the sensor officer. On the main screen, the space around Haven suddenly lit up with thousands of energy signatures. Orbital stations that had seemed small and harmless revealed themselves to be massive defense platforms. Ships that had looked like simple cargo vessels transformed into sleek warships that moved faster than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. But most shocking of all, the planet itself began to glow. Energy fields that had been invisible suddenly became bright enough to see with the naked eye. The entire world was surrounded by a web of defensive systems that made the Empire's best fortifications look like children's toys. "How many ships do they have?" Veltar demanded. Lieutenant Sek Han's voice was shaking as he replied, "I'm counting over 300 vessels, sir, and they're all moving into attack formation." The captain felt his confidence begin to crack. 300 ships was more than most entire fleets, but that was still not enough to worry him. Quality was more important than quantity, and Zephyrian ships were the most advanced in the galaxy. "All ships, prepare for battle," he commanded. "Target their largest vessels and fire on my order." But when he gave the order to attack, nothing happened. His weapons officer pressed the firing controls again and again, but the ship's massive energy cannons remained silent. "Sir, all weapons systems are offline," Kolvex reported, panic creeping into his voice. "The computers show that everything is working perfectly, but nothing will fire." Across the bridge, other officers were reporting similar problems. Navigation was failing, communications were being blocked, even the life support systems were starting to behave strangely. "Captain," came a new voice over the communication system. It was the human chancellor again, but now her image was appearing on every screen throughout the ship. "I think you're beginning to understand your situation. Your weapons won't work because we won't let them. Your ships can't escape because we're controlling your engines, and your crews are getting very nervous because they can see what's happening around them." Veltar looked at his main view screen and felt his heart stop beating. The human ships were not just surrounding his fleet, they were playing with it. Vessels that moved like living things danced between his massive warships, coming close enough to touch their hulls before spinning away. It was like watching children play around sleeping giants. "Your technology is impressive," the human continued. "But you're fighting with tools that we helped invent 3 centuries ago. Everything you use, we understand. Everything you try, we can counter. And right now, we're recording this entire encounter and broadcasting it to the Galactic Communication Network." The captain's worst fears were confirmed when his communication officer reported that their entire humiliation was being transmitted across the galaxy. Every government, every military, every citizen with access to the galactic net was watching the mighty Zephyrian Empire being completely helpless against a human colony. "What do you want?" Veltar finally asked, his pride broken. "I want you to deliver a message," Chancellor Santos replied. "Tell the galaxy that the Haven Republic claims the Kepler 442 system under the ancient right of inhabitation. We've been here for 3 centuries. This is our home, and we will defend it against anyone who tries to take it from us." The human ships began to move away from the Zephyrian fleet, but Veltar could feel that they were still being watched and controlled. "You have 24 hours to leave our system," the Chancellor said. "After that, we'll consider you hostile, invaders, and act accordingly. Captain, I suggest you use your time wisely. The galaxy is about to learn some very important lessons about humanity." The communication ended, leaving Veltar and his crew alone with their defeat. In less than an hour, everything they thought they knew about humans and their place in the galaxy had been proven completely wrong. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor watched the Zephyrian fleet from the command center of Orbital Station Alpha. The alien ships hung motionless in space, their weapons systems completely disabled by Haven's cyber warfare programs. Around her, dozens of officers monitored the situation with calm efficiency. This was the moment they had trained for their entire lives. "Admiral, Captain Veltar is attempting to contact his home fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the communications station. "His messages are being blocked by our signal jammers, but he's getting increasingly desperate." Sarah nodded and turned to the tactical display that showed the positions of all ships in the system. The humans had revealed only a fraction of their true military strength, but it was already more than enough to handle the Zephyrian threat. 300 ships surrounded the alien fleet, while thousands more remained hidden throughout the system. "Any signs that they're trying to break free?" she asked. "No, ma'am. Their engines are still under our control. We're keeping them in a stable orbit around Haven while we decide what to do with them." The Admiral allowed herself a small smile. The Zephyrians had expected to find a primitive human colony that would surrender without a fight. Instead, they had discovered a military force that could disable their entire fleet without firing a single shot. Dr. Kim Walsh entered the command center carrying a datapad filled with sensor readings from the alien ships. As Haven's chief science officer, she had been studying Zephyrian technology for years, preparing for exactly this situation. "Sarah, their ships are exactly what we expected," she reported. "The Empire has been using the same basic designs for over 2 centuries. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. Their defenses are strong but inflexible. They've become so confident in their superiority that they stopped innovating." "And our cyber attack?" Sarah asked. "Complete success. Their computer systems are based on principles that humans developed and abandoned 50 years ago. We know every weakness, every backdoor, every vulnerability. We could take control of their entire fleet permanently if we wanted to." Sarah considered this information carefully. Haven's leaders had agreed that their first contact with the galaxy should send a clear message. Humanity was not weak, and they would not be pushed around. But they also didn't want to start a war that might bring the entire galaxy down on them. "Open a channel to Chancellor Santos," she ordered. The Chancellor's face appeared on the main screen, transmitted from her office in New Geneva. Behind her, Sarah could see the bustling activity of Haven's government as they dealt with the crisis. "Maria, we have the situation under control up here," Sarah reported. "The Zephyrian fleet is completely neutralized. No casualties on either side." "Good. How are they handling the reality of their situation?" "About as well as you'd expect. Their captain is angry, confused, and probably filing reports that his superiors won't believe. But I think he's starting to understand that this isn't some kind of trick." Chancellor Santos considered this for a moment. "Admiral, I want you to give them a demonstration. Show them exactly what our ships can do. But make sure the galaxy is watching." Sarah understood immediately. This wasn't just about defeating the Zephyrian fleet. It was about showing every government in the galaxy that humanity had become a force that demanded respect. "Understood, Madam Chancellor. We'll make sure they get the message." The Admiral turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Hayes, select 12 of our newest corvettes for a demonstration flight. I want them to show off everything these ships can do without revealing our most advanced capabilities." "Yes, ma'am. Which flight group should I assign?" "Give it to Lightning Squadron. They've been waiting for a chance to show off." Within minutes, 12 human ships detached themselves from the main fleet and began moving toward the disabled Zephyrian vessels. To the aliens watching, these ships looked impossible. They were smaller than traditional warships, but moved with a grace and speed that defied physics. Their hulls seemed to shift and change color as they flew, making them nearly invisible against the background of space. Captain Veltar watched from his bridge as the human ships approached. He had been a military officer for 30 years and had seen the best ships that every major power could build. But these vessels were unlike anything in his experience. "How fast are they moving?" he asked his sensor officer. "Sir, our instruments show speeds that should be impossible for ships that size. They're accelerating at rates that would turn any crew into paste, but somehow they're maintaining perfect formation." As the human ships drew closer, they began to demonstrate their capabilities. They flew in complex patterns that no other species could achieve, coming within meters of each other while traveling at incredible speeds. They moved up and down, backwards and forwards, even spinning in place while maintaining their velocity. But the real shock came when one of the human ships simply vanished. One moment it was there, clearly visible on all sensors, and the next moment it was gone as if it had never existed. "Where did it go?" Veltar demanded. "I don't know, sir. It just disappeared. No energy signature, no warp field, nothing." The missing ship reappeared seconds later, but now it was inside the Zephyrian formation, flying calmly between 2 of their massive cruisers. The human vessel was so close that its crew could have reached out and touched the alien hulls, but somehow it had appeared there without triggering any alarms or defensive systems. "Sir," the weapons officer reported with fear in his voice. "That ship is now directly adjacent to our main reactor. If it wanted to, it could destroy us with a single shot." But the human ship didn't attack. Instead, it transmitted a simple message. "Hello, Captain Veltar. We thought you might like to see what our scouts can do." The ship vanished again and reappeared back with its squadron, leaving the Zephyrian crew wondering if they had imagined the whole thing. More demonstrations followed. Human ships showed that they could become invisible, move faster than anything else in space, and appear anywhere they wanted without warning. They displayed weapons that could cut through the strongest armor like paper and shields that could absorb any amount of energy. Most impressive of all, they showed perfect coordination. The 12 ships moved as if they were controlled by a single mind, executing maneuvers that required split-second timing and absolute trust between crews. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral," his communication officer reported. Admiral Chen Okafor's face appeared on the screen, and Veltar could see the confidence in her eyes. This was a military leader who knew exactly how powerful her forces were. "Captain Veltar, I hope you've enjoyed our little demonstration. What you've seen today represents a tiny fraction of Haven's defensive capabilities. We have ships that are faster, weapons that are more powerful, and defenses that are stronger than anything you've witnessed." She paused to let this information sink in before continuing. "But we're not interested in conquest. We want to live in peace and develop our civilization without interference. However, we will defend ourselves against anyone who threatens our home or our people." The Admiral's expression became more serious. "I'm going to release control of your ships now. You're free to leave our system and return to your empire. When you make your report, please be sure to include everything you've seen here today. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is no longer weak or defensible." Veltar felt his ship's systems coming back online as the humans ended their cyber attack. His engines responded to commands, his weapons were functional again, and his communication systems could reach beyond the local area. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "all systems are back to normal. We have full control of our ship." But Veltar knew that the humans could take control again whenever they wanted. They had demonstrated technology that made his fleet look like ancient relics. Most disturbing of all, they had done it without showing any anger or cruelty. They were powerful enough to destroy his entire fleet, but they had chosen to simply disable it and make their point. "Set course for home," he ordered quietly, "and prepare a full report for Imperial Command. They need to know what we've found out here." As the Zephyrian fleet began to leave the system, Admiral Chen Okafor turned to her staff with satisfaction. The first test was complete, and humanity had passed with flying colors. "Admiral, we're receiving communications from all over the galaxy," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported. "It seems like everyone saw our demonstration." "Good. Let them think about what they've learned, and prepare our deep space monitoring systems. Something tells me we're going to have a lot more visitors very soon." The emergency session of the Galactic Council began in chaos. Representatives from 50 different species crowded into the Great Assembly Hall on Thessia Prime, all talking at once about the shocking news from the Kepler 442 system. The footage of humanity's complete domination of a Zephyrian battle fleet had spread across the galaxy faster than any government could control it. Council Leader Morden of the Altarian Federation called for order, his blue-scaled hands raised high above his head. The Altarians were known for their diplomatic skills and their ability to remain calm in any crisis, but even Morden looked shaken by recent events. "Fellow representatives," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's advanced sound system. "We are here to discuss what may be the most significant development in galactic politics for over 1,000 years. The species we have known as primitive humans has revealed military capabilities that exceed our most optimistic estimates." Ambassador Keth Ara of the Zephyrian Empire stood to address the council. Her gray skin was darker than usual, a sign of deep anger among her people. The four-armed warrior looked like she wanted to challenge someone to personal combat. The Empire's fleet was not defeated, she declared loudly. It was humiliated. Our ships were disabled without a single shot being fired. Our weapons were turned off like children's toys. And the entire encounter was broadcast to the galaxy as if we were actors in some entertainment program. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The Zephyrian Empire was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. If they could be defeated so easily, what did that mean for everyone else? Dr. Vexnall of the Corvani Scientific Union requested permission to speak. The Corvani were a species of brilliant researchers who had developed much of the technology used throughout the galaxy. Honorable representatives, I have analyzed the sensor data from the Zephyrian encounter. The technology displayed by these humans is not just advanced, it represents fundamental breakthroughs in physics that we thought were impossible. The scientist activated a holographic display that showed images captured from the human ships. Their vessels appear to manipulate gravity in ways that our best theories say cannot be done. They demonstrate faster-than-light travel without using traditional warp fields. Most disturbing of all, they show complete mastery over computer systems that should be impossible to hack. Ambassador Telron of the Harmony Collective raised a tentacle to speak. The collective was known for their peaceful nature and their advanced understanding of technology. Dr. Vexnall, are you suggesting that human technology is superior to our own? I'm suggesting that it's completely different from our own, the scientist replied. For centuries, the galaxy has developed technology along predictable paths. We've improved existing designs and made them more efficient. But the humans appear to have started from completely different basic principles. The implications of this statement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Every major corporation, every military force, every government in the galaxy based their power on technology that might now be obsolete. Economic Representative Zur Tan of the Trade Federation stood up urgently. If human technology is truly superior, what does this mean for galactic commerce? Our entire economy is based on the trade of advanced systems and components. It means, said Ambassador Kethera grimly, that every military in the galaxy may need to be completely rebuilt. Our weapons, our ships, our defenses. Everything may be useless against enemies with human-level technology. Council Leader Mordun tried to maintain order as arguments broke out across the assembly hall. Some representatives demanded immediate military action against the human colony. Others suggested diplomatic approaches. A few even proposed offering alliance terms to gain access to human technology. In the middle of this chaos, a new transmission arrived from the Kepler 442 system. Chancellor Santos appeared on the main display, speaking from her office on Haven. The human leader looked calm and confident, completely unworried by the storm of controversy she had created. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, she began. I understand that recent events have caused concern throughout the galaxy. I want to address these concerns directly. The assembly hall fell silent as every being present focused on the human chancellor's words. The Haven Republic has existed peacefully in the Kepler 442 system for 300 years. We have never attacked anyone, never threatened anyone, and never interfered with galactic politics. We simply wanted to live our own lives and develop our own civilization. She paused before continuing. However, when a military fleet enters our space with the intention of forcing us from our homes, we will defend ourselves. We have that right under every law and treaty that governs civilized behavior. Ambassador Cathara interrupted the transmission. Human, your colony was never registered with the Galactic Council. According to our laws, unregistered settlements have no legal standing. Chancellor Santos's expression didn't change. Ambassador, we were never asked to register. Your council never contacted us, never offered us membership, and never even acknowledged our existence. We have been here for 3 centuries, building our civilization and harming no one. I believe that gives us certain rights. The human leader's tone became more serious. But let me be very clear about our position. The Haven Republic formally claims sovereignty over the Kepler 442 system under the ancient right of inhabitation. We have transformed dead worlds into living ones. We have built cities where there was only emptiness. This is our home, and we will defend it. Economic Representative Zurtan asked the question that everyone was thinking. What do you want from the galaxy, Chancellor Santos? We want recognition as a sovereign power with the right to exist in peace. We want trade relationships with species that are willing to treat us as equals. And we want to contribute to galactic civilization in positive ways. The Chancellor smiled slightly before delivering her final statement. But we also want it understood that the days of treating humanity as a minor, primitive species are over. We are not asking for these things. We are informing you of our intentions. Any government that wishes to test our resolve is welcome to try. The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. Over the following days, the political situation became increasingly chaotic. Stock markets crashed as investors realized that their technology companies might be worthless. Military commanders quietly began updating their threat assessments, moving human space from minimal concern to maximum threat level. The Zephyrian Empire faced internal rebellions as news of their defeat spread through their territory. Conquered species began asking why they should remain under imperial rule when the Empire couldn't even defeat a single human colony. The Corvani Scientific Union offered massive research grants to any scientist who could explain how human technology worked. The Trade Federation sent secret diplomatic missions to negotiate access to human markets. Even the mysterious Voidwalker Collective, which rarely communicated with other species, sent a formal message expressing interest in meeting with human representatives. But perhaps the most significant reaction came from Earth itself. The human home world had been struggling with resource shortages and political problems for centuries. When news arrived that a lost human colony had become one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, celebrations broke out in every major city. The Earth government immediately sent messages to Haven, asking for help with their problems and begging to re-establish contact with their long-lost cousins. Back on Haven, Chancellor Santos met with her advisors to plan their next moves. The galaxy was in chaos, and humanity was at the center of it all. The situation is developing faster than we expected, reported Admiral Chen Okafor. We're tracking over 200 ships from various governments heading toward our system. Some are diplomatic missions, but others appear to be military scout groups. Dr. Walsh looked up from her analysis reports. Maria, we've proven our point about defensive capabilities. But if we want to be taken seriously as a galactic power, we need to show that we can project force beyond our own system. Chancellor. Santos nodded thoughtfully. Admiral, how long would it take to prepare an expedition to visit some of our neighbors? I think it's time for humanity to introduce itself properly to the galaxy. 6 months after the confrontation with the Zephyrian fleet, the galaxy had been forced to accept a new reality. The Haven Republic was not just another human colony. It was a technological and military power that could stand equal to any civilization in known space. The first diplomatic missions to Haven had returned with reports that shattered every assumption about human capabilities. Trade delegations spoke of cities that seemed to grow from living crystal, where the buildings themselves responded to their inhabitants' needs. Military observers described defensive systems that made the galaxy's most advanced fortifications look like ancient ruins. But it was the technology exchanges that truly amazed the galactic powers. Human medical science could regrow entire organs and extend lifespans far beyond what most species thought possible. Their manufacturing processes could create materials with properties that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Most impressive, Of all, they had developed artificial intelligence systems that were truly intelligent, yet remained completely loyal to their human creators. Ambassador Feltar of the Altarian Federation stood in the observation lounge of Haven's primary spaceport, looking out at the impossible sight before him. The planet that his people's surveys had declared uninhabitable 3 centuries ago was now a garden world that supported over 200 million humans, green forests covered rolling hills where ancient impact craters used to be, clear rivers flowed through valleys that had once been barren rock. The sky itself had been transformed, with an artificial magnetic field that created beautiful auroras every night. "It's hard to believe this is the same world our explorers surveyed," he said to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, his human guide. Elena smiled as she watched a group of children playing in a nearby park. These were Haven-born humans who had never known scarcity or conflict. They grew up learning advanced science as naturally as children on other worlds learn to walk. "My great-great-grandmother was one of the original terraforming engineers," Elena explained. "She used to say that any world could become paradise if you were willing to work hard enough and wait long enough. But the technology required," Ambassador Feltar began, "was developed right here, by humans who had no choice but to innovate or die. When you can't import what you need, you learn to create what you need." The ambassador was quiet for a moment, considering the implications of what he was seeing. The Altarian Federation prided itself on being the galaxy's most advanced civilization, but everything he had witnessed on Haven made his people's achievements seem small and limited. In the capital city of New Geneva, Chancellor Santos was meeting with representatives from 12 different governments. The conference room was filled with beings from across the galaxy, all trying to understand how to deal with humanity's sudden rise to power. "Chancellor," said Trade Minister Vokran of the Economic Alliance, "our corporations are very interested in establishing manufacturing partnerships with your people. We believe that human innovation combined with our distribution networks could benefit everyone." Santos nodded politely. "We're certainly interested in mutually beneficial relationships, but let me be clear, we won't be anyone's junior partner. Haven has spent 3 centuries developing its capabilities, and we won't give away the results of that work cheaply." Ambassador Kethara of the Zephyrian Empire shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The proud warrior species had been forced to completely change their approach to dealing with humanity. "Chancellor, the Empire wishes to discuss territorial boundaries. We understand that you claim the Kepler 442 system, but what about surrounding areas?" "We claim what we can defend and what we need for our security," Santos replied. "Right now, that includes this system and several uninhabited systems nearby. We have no interest in conquering anyone, but we also won't allow potential enemies to build bases on our doorstep." The meeting continued for hours, with each representative trying to understand humanity's intentions and capabilities. What they discovered was both reassuring and terrifying. The humans of Haven had no interest in galactic conquest or domination. They simply wanted to be left alone to develop their civilization in peace. But they also made it clear that they would defend themselves against any threat, and they had the power to do so effectively. Fleet Admiral Chen Okafor was conducting her own meetings with military representatives from across the galaxy. The questions were always the same. How many ships did humanity have? What were their weapons capable of? How had they developed such advanced technology? "Admiral," asked General Morkan of the Federation Defense Force, "our analysts estimate that you revealed less than 10% of your true military capabilities during the Zephyrian encounter. Is that assessment accurate?" Sarah smiled slightly. "General, we revealed exactly what we wanted to reveal. Nothing more, nothing less. But surely you can give us some indication of your actual strength? The galaxy needs to understand what it's dealing with. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is not a threat to peaceful civilizations. We have no desire to conquer anyone or impose our will on other species. but we also have the power to protect ourselves and our allies from any aggressor. The Admiral's expression became more serious. What the galaxy should really understand is that humanity has been developing in isolation for 3 centuries. We've had time to solve problems that other civilizations haven't even recognized yet. Our technology isn't just advanced, it's fundamentally different from what you're used to. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human homeworld was experiencing its own transformation. The news that a lost human colony had become a galactic power had inspired a renaissance of human pride and determination. Dr. James Chen, a descendant of the original Admiral Chen, who had led the colony ship to safety, stood before the Earth Council with a proposal that would change everything. Honorable representatives, Haven has offered to share their terraforming technology with Earth. They can repair our damaged environment and give us the tools to expand to other worlds. But they want something in return. Council President Sarah Williams leaned forward. What do they want, Dr. Chen? They want Earth to become a true partner, not a junior member begging for help. They want us to contribute our own innovations and work together to spread human civilization throughout the galaxy. The proposal was controversial, but the alternative was clear. Earth could continue struggling with its problems alone, or it could join with Haven to become part of something greater. Back on Haven, Chancellor Santos stood in her office, looking out at the thriving city below. Admiral Chen Okafor had just delivered her daily security briefing, and the news was encouraging. Maria, we're tracking diplomatic missions from over 30 governments heading our way. The Corvani want to establish a joint research station. The Trade Federation is offering us membership with full voting rights. Even the Void Walkers have sent an ambassador. What about potential threats? Santos asked. The Zephyrian Empire is still dealing with internal rebellions, so they're not a concern right now. A few minor powers are making aggressive statements, but nothing we can't handle. Overall, I'd say the galaxy is adjusting to our presence better than we expected. Chancellor. Santos smiled as she watched human children playing in the parks below. These young people would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected as equals, where human colonies could be established openly, and where human innovation could help solve problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. Admiral, prepare. A message for transmission to all galactic governments. It's time to make our final position clear. Hours later, Chancellor Santos's message reached every corner of the galaxy. People of the galaxy, 6 months ago, the Haven Republic emerged from 3 centuries of isolation. We did not ask for your attention, but events forced us to reveal ourselves. Today, I want to make humanity's position absolutely clear. We are not conquerors. We are not seeking to dominate or control other species. We simply want to exist in peace and contribute to galactic civilization. But we are also not weak. We will defend ourselves and our allies against any threat. We have the technology and the determination to protect what we have built. To those who wish to be our friends, we offer partnership, trade, and mutual assistance. To those who wish to be our enemies, we offer fair warning of what you will face. The galaxy is large enough for all of us to prosper. Humanity is ready to take its place among the stars, not as supplicants, but as equals. The message marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. The galaxy had spent centuries believing it understood humanity's place in the cosmic order. The Haven Republic had proven them completely wrong, and this was only the beginning. Human colonies were already being planned for dozens of systems. Human technology was beginning to spread to allied civilizations. Human influence was growing with each passing day. The red star Kepler 442 continued to burn quietly in space, but it was no longer forgotten. It had become the center of a new power that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come.
The massive alien ship appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, a vessel larger than Manhattan hung over the Pacific Ocean, its dark metal hull reflecting sunlight in strange patterns. Within hours, 6 more ships joined it in orbit. Dr. Olivia Clark stared at the satellite images on her computer screen. As the lead scientist at NASA's Deep Space Communication Program, she had spent her career searching for signs of alien life. Now they had arrived, and she felt unprepared. "Dr. Clark, the president is requesting you join the emergency meeting." Her assistant Sam stood in the doorway, face pale. Olivia nodded, gathering her tablet. "Any response to our transmissions?" "Nothing, yet. But their ships are positioning themselves over major cities." The Pentagon war room buzzed with anxious energy when Olivia arrived. Military officers huddled around displays showing the alien vessels. President Reynolds stood at the head of the table, speaking in hushed tones with the Secretary of Defense. "Dr. Clark, thank you for coming," the president said, gesturing to an empty chair. "We need your expertise now more than ever." Major Peter Wright, a square-jawed Air Force officer with a reputation for staying cool under pressure, slid a folder across the table to her. "These images were taken 10 minutes ago. They're deploying smaller craft." Olivia examined the photos of sleek shuttles descending toward Earth. "They're making contact," she said. "If they wanted to attack, they would have done so immediately." The room fell silent as screens around them suddenly activated on their own. A face appeared, humanoid but clearly alien, with blue-tinted skin and large, almond-shaped eyes. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Zextar of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and friendship." 12 hours later, Olivia found herself boarding a military helicopter alongside Major Wright. They had been selected as part of the first diplomatic team to meet the aliens face-to-face. "Nervous?" Peter asked as the helicopter lifted off. Olivia clutched her tablet tighter. "I've prepared for this moment my whole career. But yes, terrified." Peter smiled. "Same, though my training involved more what-if-they're hostile scenarios." The helicopter landed in a cleared area of Central Park in New York. The alien shuttle rested on the Great Lawn, steam rising where its landing gear touched the morning dew. A small group of world leaders and diplomats already waited nearby. Zextar emerged from the shuttle flanked by 4 other aliens of varying appearances. The ambassador stood nearly 7 feet tall, moving with unusual grace that made him appear almost weightless. "Welcome," said the UN Secretary General, stepping forward. "On behalf of humanity, we are honored by your presence." Zextar inclined, his head. "The honor is ours. Your civilization has achieved much in its short existence. Nuclear fission, primitive space travel. Impressive for a species so young." Olivia noticed the condescending tone immediately. "Primitive space travel?" She exchanged glances with Peter, who had also caught it. The initial meeting lasted 3 hours. The aliens explained they represented a coalition of over 300 spacefaring species that governed most of the Milky Way galaxy. They offered Earth membership in this galactic confederation, but as a protectorate, not an equal member. "Your technological development places you at approximately level 2 on our scale," Zextar explained during the follow-up meeting at the United Nations. "Full membership requires level 4, including viable interstellar travel capabilities." "And how long would it take us to reach level 4? Asked the Chinese representative. "Based on your current development trajectory, approximately 300 Earth years," another alien replied. "Though with our guidance, perhaps as little as 200. Olivia bit her tongue. These aliens, for all their advanced technology, were making assumptions. Big ones. After the formal meetings concluded, Olivia and Peter were assigned to the scientific exchange team. They toured the alien shuttle, asking questions that the aliens answered with practiced patience, as if explaining concepts to children. "Your propulsion systems?" Olivia asked, studying the engine room. "You use antimatter containment?" "Indeed," replied the alien engineer named Kolb. "Most level 2 civilizations are still working with chemical rockets. You're quite advanced to even understand the concept of antimatter propulsion." Peter stepped closer. "And this is how all Confederation ships travel between stars?" "It is the most efficient method discovered in the galaxy," Kolb said proudly. "Our fastest vessels can reach half the speed of light. That evening, Olivia and Peter sat in a secure conference room at the Pentagon. President Reynolds looked exhausted as various officials debated how to respond to the aliens' offer of protectorate status. "They're colonizing us with a smile," General Martinez said. "These assistance outposts they want to build, those are military installations." "We don't know that," argued the Secretary of State. "This could be genuine goodwill." The president turned to Olivia. "Dr. Clark, your assessment?" Olivia chose her words carefully. "They're not telling us everything. Their technology is impressive, but not magical, and they seem absolutely certain about our capabilities, or lack thereof. Because they've been watching us," someone suggested. "Or because they've seen this pattern before," Peter added. "They expect us to develop like other species they've encountered." President Reynolds nodded slowly. "Dr. Clark, Major Wright, you're both cleared for Starburst. After this meeting, report to Admiral Casey." Olivia's heart raced. Project Starburst was beyond classified. Even she only knew rumors. 3 hours later, a military transport flew them to a remote island in the Pacific. From there, they boarded a submarine that descended to crushing depths before docking with an underwater facility hidden beneath the ocean floor. Admiral Casey met them at the airlock. "Welcome to the trench," he said, leading them through gleaming corridors. "For 30 years, the world's greatest minds have worked here in complete secrecy, funded by a coalition of nations." He stopped at a massive viewing window. Beyond it stretched an underwater construction bay larger than an aircraft carrier. In the center floated a sleek vessel unlike any spacecraft Olivia had ever seen. "The ESS Defiant," Admiral Casey said, with pride. "Earth's first faster-than-light-capable starship." "Impossible," Olivia whispered, though the evidence floated before her eyes. "While the world focused on traditional space programs, we explored different physics, not antimatter containment, but quantum fold technology." Peter stepped closer to the glass. "And the aliens don't know?" "No. This facility exists under a quantum field that masks all energy signatures. As far as they can detect, this part of the ocean floor simply doesn't exist." "How close is it to being operational?" Olivia asked. 6 months of testing remained on our schedule," Admiral Casey said grimly. "But with the Confederation watching us now, the President wants it ready in 6 weeks. Can that be done?" Peter asked. The Admiral's face hardened. "It has to be, because you two are going to be on it when it launches." Olivia stared at the starship, its hull gleaming under the lights. The aliens thought Earth was centuries away from interstellar travel. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The underwater facility buzzed with activity. Where once scientists and engineers had worked at a careful pace, they now rushed through corridors with urgent purpose. 6 weeks to prepare a starship that needed 6 months of testing. Everyone felt the pressure. Dr. Alan Reeves ran his hand through his gray hair, studying the diagnostics on his tablet. As chief scientist of Project Starburst, he had spent 15 years developing the quantum fold drive. Now politics demanded he rush the most important scientific breakthrough in human history. "Those numbers don't look good," said a voice behind him. Alan turned to see Lisa Nguyen, the naval captain chosen to command the ESS Defiant. She was shorter than most of her crew but carried herself with unmistakable authority. "The power fluctuations are within acceptable parameters," Alan replied, though his frown suggested otherwise. "Acceptable for testing, maybe. Not for an actual jump." Lisa looked through the reinforced glass window at the massive engine that took up the rear third of the Defiant. "Will it work, Doctor? Really work?" Alan hesitated. "In theory, yes. The quantum fold creates a bubble that slips between normal space. Distance becomes meaningless. But you've never tested it at full power. We couldn't risk the energy signature being detected, and now we may never get the chance for proper testing." Chief Engineer Doug Miller joined them, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. His weathered face showed the strain of working 20-hour days. "The good news is the secondary systems are fully operational," Doug said. Life support, shields, navigation. The bad news is our flight simulations show a 22% chance of drive failure if we attempt to fold now. And failure means? Lisa asked, though she already knew. Best case? We're stranded in normal space. Worst case? The ship tears itself apart. Lisa nodded slowly. Not great odds, but better than I expected. Keep working. Above them, on the surface world, the alien presence grew. Zorian ships established positions over major cities. Their diplomats met with world leaders. Their scientists requested access to Earth's research facilities. Everything seemed cordial, but with each passing day, the aliens pushed further into Earth's affairs. President Catherine Summers sat in the Oval Office reviewing reports from around the world. The aliens had set up their first assistance outpost outside Beijing. Another was under construction near Moscow. The Europeans had agreed to host 3 such facilities. A knock at the door interrupted her reading. General Frank Ortiz entered, carrying a secure tablet. Madam President, we have a situation. The Zorians have requested access to our research stations in Antarctica. The president's face remained neutral, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped her pen. Antarctica housed the production facilities for key components of the quantum fold drive. What reason did they give? They claim their sensors detected unusual mineral deposits that could be valuable for technological exchange. But our intelligence suggests they've picked up trace energy signatures from our manufacturing process. How long can we stall them? A week, maybe less. And there's more. General Ortiz handed her the tablet. Their ships have begun systematic oceanic surveys. They'll find the trench soon. The president studied the map showing the Zorian search pattern. They were methodically working their way toward the secret facility. Move up the timeline, she said. The Defiant needs to launch in 3 days. Back in the trench, Olivia Clark and Peter Wright underwent intensive training. Though neither had been selected as crew for the Defiant's original mission plan, both possessed skills now deemed essential. Olivia's expertise in alien communication and Peter's military background made them valuable additions. The acceleration will crush you back into your seats, the flight instructor explained as they practiced. In the simulator, 5 Gs for approximately 90 seconds until we clear Earth's atmosphere. Then the real fun begins. Peter handled the physical training well, but Olivia struggled. She had spent her career in laboratories and offices, not preparing for space flight. You're thinking too much, Peter told her during a break. Your body knows what to do, trust it. Easy for you to say, Olivia gasped, still catching her breath. You do this for fun? Peter smiled. No one's fully prepared for what we're attempting. We're about to make the first faster-than-light jump in human history, in an untested ship, while being chased by aliens who think we're primitive cave people. It's okay to be scared. I'm not scared, Olivia said. I'm terrified. On the other side of the facility, Captain Nguyen met with Admiral Casey and the mission planners. The latest intelligence wasn't good. The Zorians have deployed underwater. Scanning drones, Admiral Casey explained, pointing to a map. At their current search pattern, they'll detect us in approximately 36 hours. And the ship? Lisa asked. Not ready. Miller reports the drive needs at least 48 more hours to reach minimum safety parameters. Lisa studied the owl. What if we create a distraction? Something to draw their attention elsewhere? Already planned. We're staging an underwater earthquake research project on the other side of the Pacific. But it won't fool them for long. Lisa made her decision. Begin preparations for launch. The Defiant leaves in 24 hours, ready or not. The next day passed in a blur of activity. Crew members said hushed goodbyes to colleagues. Engineers made final adjustments to systems. Security teams prepared to defend the facility if discovered before launch. 6 hours before the scheduled departure, alarms blared throughout the trench. Zorian vessel approaching, announced the facility AI. Current trajectory will bring it directly overhead in 15 minutes. In the command center, Admiral Casey cursed. They're ahead of schedule. Captain Nguyen, your crew? Boarding now, Lisa replied. We're at 82% readiness. It will have to do. Launch as soon as possible. The crew of 30 rushed to their stations aboard the Defiant. Olivia and Peter strapped into seats in the science section. Through the ship's external cameras, they watched as the massive underwater bay doors began to open. Doug Miller's voice came over the intercom from engineering. Drive system is online but unstable. We have power fluctuations throughout the grid. Can we make a fold? Captain Nguyen asked from the bridge. Maybe one. After that, all bets are off. Lisa turned to her navigation officer. Plot a course for the Alpha Centauri system. That's our best chance for a clear jump. Captain, the communications officer interrupted. The Zorian ship has stopped directly above us. They're deploying something into the water. On the external cameras, they watched a torpedo-shaped probe descend toward their location. Dr. Alan Reeves appeared on the bridge, face pale. Captain, that device will detect us through the quantum mask. We have minutes at most. Lisa nodded grimly. All hands prepare for emergency ascent. We launch now. The Defiant's engines hummed to life. The sleek black vessel rose from its cradle, hovering in the massive underwater chamber. May God help us all. Admiral Casey's voice came through the comm system. Good luck, Defiant. Show them what humanity can do. The ship surged upward, rocketing toward the surface of the Pacific Ocean, leaving behind the safety of the trench and heading toward a confrontation that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The ESS Defiant burst through the ocean's surface in an explosion of water and foam. Sunlight gleamed off its black hull as engines roared, pushing the ship upward with tremendous force. Inside, the crew was pressed into their seats by the sudden acceleration. 5 Gs and climbing, announced the flight officer, her voice strained. Atmospheric exit in 70 seconds. Captain Lisa Nguyen gripped her chair arms. The ship wasn't ready. The crew wasn't ready, but they had no choice. Status of the Zorian vessel? She asked. It's changing course to follow us, replied the sensor officer. They're launching smaller craft. On the main screen, they watched as sleek alien ships deployed from the larger vessel. They moved with impossible grace, cutting through the air faster than any Earth aircraft. They're hailing us, said the communications officer. Ignore it, Lisa ordered, all power to engines. The Defiant climbed higher, pushing through the upper atmosphere. The blue sky darkened to black as stars became visible. 30 seconds more, and they would reach space. In the science section, Olivia Clark and Peter Wright watched the sensor readings with growing alarm. 3 Zorian interceptors closing fast, Peter said. They'll reach us before we clear the atmosphere. Olivia studied. A different display. The quantum fold drive is charging, but it's slow. We need at least 5 minutes before we can jump. Peter unbuckled his harness. We don't have 5 minutes. I'm going to help engineering. He pushed himself through the low gravity toward the engine section where Doug Miller and his team worked frantically. We need more power to the drive, Peter said as he entered. Doug looked up from the main console, his face damp with sweat. We're giving it everything we've got. The system wasn't designed for this kind of rapid charge. The Zorians will catch us before it's ready. Then we'll have to get creative. Doug pointed to a junction box. Help me reroute power from life. Support. We can survive on emergency systems long enough to make the jump. On the bridge, the situation worsened. The ship shuddered as it finally broke free of Earth's atmosphere, but the alien vessels were closing fast. They're locking weapons, reported the tactical officer. Evasive maneuvers, Lisa ordered. Use the moon's gravitational field for a slingshot. Effect. The Defiant changed course, banking toward Earth's moon. The engines strained as the ship accelerated. Captain, we're receiving a message from Ambassador Zextar himself, said the communications officer. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. Put it through. The alien's face appeared on the screen. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with obvious anger. Earth vessel, power down immediately. You possess technology forbidden to your development level. This is a serious violation of Confederation law. Lisa straightened in her chair. Ambassador, we are a sovereign planet. We never agreed to your laws or classifications. Your primitive species cannot comprehend the dangers of... Lisa cut the transmission. How long until the full drive is ready? 3 minutes at current charge rate, came the reply from engineering. We don't have 3 minutes, the tactical officer warned. Zorian ships will intercept in 90 seconds. In the White House Situation Room, President Summers and her advisors watched the satellite feed of the chase. They had no way to help. The Defiant now. Everything depended on that single ship and its crew. The Zorian ambassador is demanding an explanation, reported the Secretary of State. Their ships in orbit are powering weapons. The president's expression remained composed, but her eyes revealed her concern. Tell them there's been a misunderstanding. The ship is an experimental prototype that launched without authorization. They won't believe that. They don't need to believe it. They just need to doubt enough to delay any action until the Defiant can jump. Back in space, the Defiant raced around the moon, using its gravity to gain speed. The ship vibrated as it pushed, beyond its tested limits. Structural integrity at 82%, reported the engineering officer. Hull temperature rising. Maintain course, Lisa ordered. Status of the fold drive? 2 minutes to minimum safe charge, Doug Miller replied over the comm. The Zorians are closing to weapons range, the tactical officer warned. 30 seconds. Lisa made a quick decision. Dump the emergency fuel reserves into the main engines, give us everything. Captain, that's our backup supply for after the jump, the flight officer protested. We won't need a backup if we don't make the jump. Do it. The Defiant surged forward. As the additional fuel ignited, the sudden acceleration pushed the crew back into their seats once more. In engineering, alarms blared as systems overloaded. Peter helped Doug stabilize the power flow to the quantum fold drive. We're redlining every system, Doug shouted over the noise. This ship wasn't built for this kind of stress. Can we jump? Peter asked. Doug checked the readings. The drive is at 68% charge. Minimum safe is 75%. But will it work at 68%? Doug hesitated. Maybe. Once. But the margin for error. A violent impact rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. We've been hit, announced the tactical officer on the bridge. Minor damage to the rear section. Shields holding at 60%. They're firing again, the sensor officer warned. All hands brace for impact, Lisa ordered. The second hit was stronger than the first. The lights flickered as power fluctuated. Throughout the ship, shields at 32%, came the report. One more hit and they're down. Olivia rushed into engineering. We need to jump now. The next hit will disable us. Doug looked at his console, his face grim. Drive charge at 72%, it's not enough. It has to be, Peter insisted. Another impact. The ship lurched violently. A conduit burst overhead, showering sparks across the room. Shields are down, the tactical officer reported. They're moving to disable our engines. Doug made his choice. Initiating quantum fold jump. Everyone hold on to something. He pressed his hand against the scanner. The computer asked for confirmation. This is Chief Engineer Douglas Miller. Authorization. Code Starburst Omega. Execute fold jump now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a deep hum built throughout the ship. Outside, space itself seemed to bend around the Defiant. A bubble of blue-white energy formed, enveloping the vessel. Ambassador Zextar watched from his command ship as the primitive Earth vessel began to glow. What he was seeing should have been impossible for humans to achieve for centuries. Disable that ship immediately, he commanded. But it was too late. The ESS Defiant compressed to a point of brilliant light, then vanished completely. The quantum fold jump had worked. Humanity had just taken its first step into the greater galaxy, leaving behind very surprised aliens who had severely underestimated them. In the emptiness where the ship had been, Ambassador Zextar stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. They shouldn't have that technology for centuries. His aide approached cautiously. Should we inform the Confederation Council? Zextar nodded slowly, still stunned. Yes, and increase surveillance on Earth immediately. We've made a grave error in our assessment of these humans. Blue light filled every window of the ESS Defiant. The ship shuddered as reality itself seemed to bend around it. Inside, the crew held on as strange forces pulled at their bodies. It felt like being stretched in all directions at once. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. The blue light vanished. The stars returned. "Jump complete," announced Doug Miller, his voice filled with disbelief. "We did it." On the bridge, Captain Lisa Nguyen took a deep breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady.
Damage report. Hull integrity at 79%. Life support stable. Engines functional but overheated, reported the systems officer.
"The quantum fold drive is offline. Can we jump again?" Lisa asked. Doug's voice came through the comm system. "Not for at least 12 hours. The drive needs time to cool and recharge, assuming it still works at all after that rough jump." "Where are we?" Lisa asked the navigation officer. The young woman studied her screens with confusion. "According to our calculations, we should be near Alpha Centauri. But these star patterns don't match." Olivia Clark entered the bridge, moving carefully, in the reduced gravity. "The navigation was off. We didn't have time to properly calibrate before the jump." "So where did we end up?" Lisa asked. "I need more data, but based on preliminary readings." Olivia hesitated. "I believe we're in the Proxima Centauri system, about 4.2 light-years from Earth." A stunned silence fell over the bridge. They had traveled over 4 light-years in seconds. "How long would this journey take a Confederation ship?" Lisa asked. Olivia did a quick calculation. "Using their antimatter drives at half light speed? About 8 years. Peter Wright joined them on the bridge. And we did it in less than 20 seconds. Even with a damaged, rushed ship," the navigation officer interrupted. "Captain, I'm detecting something in orbit around the second planet. It's artificial." "Zorian?" Lisa asked tensely. "No, the structure doesn't match any known Confederation designs. It's bigger, much bigger." Lisa straightened in her chair. "Take us closer, but maintain distance. All sensors at maximum." As the Defiant approached, they could see the object more clearly on their screens. It was a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting the small rocky planet. Parts of it gleamed in the dim light of Proxima Centauri, while other sections appeared dark and dormant. "It must be at least 50 kilometers in diameter," Olivia said, staring at the readings. "And it's old. Very old." "How old?" Lisa asked. "Based on radiation decay patterns, at least 50,000 years, maybe older." "Is it operational?" "Partially. I'm detecting minimal power signatures." Lisa considered their options. "Prepare a small team for exploration. Dr. Clark, Major Wright, you'll join me. We need to know what this is before we return to Earth." 4 hours later, a shuttle from the Defiant approached the ancient structure. Lisa piloted while Olivia and Peter studied the sensor readings. 2 other crew members, a security officer and an engineer, sat behind them. "No reaction to our approach," Peter noted. "If there are automated defenses, they're not activating." "I'm detecting an opening," Lisa said, pointing to a section of the massive ring. "It looks like a docking bay." They guided the shuttle into the dark opening, which expanded into an enormous hangar. Their lights revealed other ships. Strange vessels covered in dust, clearly abandoned long ago. After confirming the atmosphere was breathable, they exited the shuttle in their protective suits. Each step kicked up dust that had been undisturbed for millennia. "This architecture doesn't match anything in the Confederation database," Olivia said, examining marks on the walls. "These symbols, I've never seen anything like them." They moved deeper into the station, following faint power signatures. The corridors were tall and wide, suggesting the builders had been larger than humans. "Look at this," Peter called, shining his light on what appeared to be a control panel. "The design, it's almost intuitive." Olivia examined it. "It's responding to our presence. The systems are waking up." As if hearing her words, lights began to flicker on around them. A gentle hum filled the air as ancient machinery slowly came back to life. They entered what seemed to be a central command center. A holographic display activated as they approached, showing a star map of the galaxy. "It's some kind of database," Olivia said, her voice filled with excitement. An archive left by whoever built this place. Can you access it? Lisa asked. Olivia studied the controls. The interface is surprisingly accessible, almost as if it was designed for beings like us. She pressed her hand against a panel. The star map zoomed in, focusing on a section of the galaxy. Specific stars lit up, connected by lines that seemed to indicate travel routes. This is incredible, Olivia whispered. According to this, the builders of the station visited hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, including Earth. What? Lisa moved closer. Are you sure? Olivia pointed to a familiar star system. That's Sol, our sun, and this data shows they visited Earth approximately 70,000 years ago. Peter examined another console that had activated. There's more. Technical schematics, propulsion systems far beyond even what we've developed, and biological data. What kind of biological data? Lisa asked. Peter's expression showed his shock. DNA sequences, comparing what appear to be the station builder's genetic code with human DNA. Are you saying these aliens were related to us? Lisa asked. Not exactly, Olivia replied, studying the data. But there are similarities that can't be coincidental. It's almost as if they did something to us. Peter finished. Some kind of genetic modification during their visit to Earth. Lisa looked around at the ancient command center. The Confederation calls humans a young species. But what if we're not? What if we're connected to something much older? Xorians were wrong about us, Olivia said. We didn't develop faster than expected, we remembered. On some level, our scientists were rediscovering technology that's encoded in our history, maybe even in our DNA. A new hologram appeared showing a humanoid figure much taller than a human with elongated limbs and a larger cranium. The image spoke in a strange language, musical and complex. It's some kind of message, Olivia said, left for whoever found this place. Can you understand it? Lisa asked. No, but I can try to decode it with our computers. Olivia began downloading the data to their equipment. Whatever these beings were, they left this for someone to find. Maybe they left it for us. As they gathered what information they could, the security officer called from across the room. Captain, you need to see this. They joined him at a viewport looking out into space. From this angle, they could see Earth's sun, a tiny, distant point of light. Why would they build this station with a direct view of our solar system? Peter wondered. Maybe they were watching us, Lisa suggested. Waiting for us to develop. Olivia looked at the star map again, at the connection lines between Earth and this station. Or maybe they were leaving breadcrumbs, a path for us to follow, when we were ready. Lisa made her decision. Download everything you can. We're taking this information back to Earth. The Confederation thinks they know who we are and what we're capable of. It's time to show them how wrong they've been. The ESS Defiant hung in space above Earth, its hull now bearing strange markings copied from the ancient station. The ship had returned 3 weeks after its sudden departure. 3 weeks in which Earth and the Galactic Confederation had been thrown into chaos. Multiple Confederation vessels approaching, reported the sensor officer. They're hailing us. Captain Lee Nguyen nodded. Put them through. Ambassador Zextar's face appeared on the main screen. The alien's usual composure was gone, replaced by barely concealed anger mixed with fear. Earth vessel, you will power down and prepare to be boarded. Your unauthorized possession of advanced technology violates multiple Confederation laws. Lisa smiled calmly. Ambassador will be happy to meet with the Confederation. In fact, we request an emergency session of the Confederation Council. We have important information to share. You are not in a position to make requests, Zexatar said coldly. Actually, we are. Lisa nodded to Olivia, who sat at the science station. Olivia pressed a sequence on her console. Outside the ship, space rippled as the improved quantum fold. Drive activated. But instead of jumping, the Defiant remained in place, surrounded by a shimmering field of energy. What you're seeing is a controlled quantum fold bubble, Lisa explained to the stunned ambassador. A modification we developed, based on technology we discovered. Your weapons cannot penetrate it. On Earth, in the White House Situation Room, President Catherine Summers watched the confrontation via satellite link. Around her sat world leaders who had gathered for this historic moment. The modifications to the Defiant worked, said Admiral Casey with pride. The ship is protected, the president nodded. And the other ships? Ready to launch on your command. In orbit, the standoff continued. More Confederation ships arrived surrounding the Defiant, but none fired. They were clearly unsure how to respond to this unexpected development. Ambassador, Lisa continued, in the 3 weeks since our jump, we've learned much about ourselves and the galaxy. We've also built 3 more ships with the same technology. They're launching now. On cue, 3 vessels rose from different locations on Earth. Each bore the same strange markings as the Defiant. They moved with impossible grace, sliding into formation around the first ship. Impossible, Zextar whispered. Your species couldn't have built these so quickly. We had help, Lisa replied, from those who came before, the ones you call the predecessors. The bridge fell silent. That name clearly meant something to the ambassador. A myth, Zextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Stories told to young ones. No, Ambassador, they were real. And they visited Earth long ago. We found their outpost at Proxima Centauri. The news spread quickly through the Confederation fleet. Soon the Defiant received another hail. This time, it was from a different alien species, the Aldari, one of the oldest members of the Confederation. Human vessel, this is High Elder Troon of the Aldari Collective. Is it true? You found evidence of the predecessors? We did, Lisa confirmed. And we have proof that they interacted with humans thousands of years ago. It seems our species was special to them. Within hours, the Defiant and Earth's other ships were escorted not to a detention facility, but to the massive Confederation Central Station. Diplomatic vessels from dozens of species rushed to meet them. The discovered connection to the predecessors had changed everything. The emergency council meeting was the largest in Confederation history. Representatives from all 300 member species attended, either in person or via hologram. Captain Nguyen, Dr. Clark, and Major Wright stood before them, representing Earth. For millennia, we have wondered about the predecessors, said the Aldari High Elder. The species that created technologies we still cannot fully understand. The ones who vanished without explanation. And now, you claim to have found not only their outpost but a connection to your own species? Olivia stepped forward. We have. The data we recovered suggests the predecessors visited Earth approximately 70,000 years ago. They found early humans and saw potential. She activated a holographic display showing the DNA comparisons and brain scans. They modified our ancestors subtly. Not enough to change who we were, but enough to plant seeds that would grow over time. What kind of seeds? Asked another council member. Intuitive understanding of certain scientific principles, Peter explained, particularly those related to quantum physics. That's why our development seemed so unusual. In areas the predecessors valued, we leaped forward. In others, we progressed normally. Ambassador Zextar spoke up. This cannot be verified. And even if true, it does not change the fact that humans violated Confederation law by developing forbidden technology. President Summers, who had joined the meeting via secure hologram, raised her hand. With respect, Ambassador, we never agreed to your laws. Earth was offered protectorate status, not membership. We never signed your treaties. Furthermore, Lisa added, the technology wasn't developed in the traditional sense. It was remembered. The quantum fold principles were embedded in our collective scientific intuition, waiting to be rediscovered. The council chamber filled with murmurs and discussions in dozens of languages. Finally, the Aldari High Elder spoke again. For generations, we have waited for signs of the predecessors' return. Perhaps they never intended to return at all. Perhaps you, humans, are their legacy. Over the next several days, agreements were negotiated. Earth would not be punished for its technological leap. Instead, a new arrangement was proposed: full membership in the Confederation, with humans recognized as potential inheritors of the predecessor legacy. In return, Earth would share its quantum fold technology, but in a controlled manner. Human scientists would work with Confederation experts to ensure safe implementation. The condescending attitude was gone, replaced by cautious respect. 1 month after the Defiant's return, President Summers addressed the United Nations. Representatives from 20 Confederation species attended as observers. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity," she said. "We have taken our place among the stars not as children to be guided, but as equals bringing valuable gifts to the galactic community." She gestured to Captain Nguyen, Dr. Clark, Major Wright, Chief Engineer Miller, and Dr. Reeves, who stood nearby as honored heroes. These brave individuals, and the many others who worked in secret for decades, have changed our destiny. The Confederation thought Earth was primitive. They looked at our cities, our technology, our conflicts, and saw a young, undeveloped species needing guidance. The President smiled. What they failed to see was our potential, our creativity, our ability to make intuitive leaps that other species find baffling. They didn't understand that sometimes being outside the established way of thinking allows for innovation they couldn't imagine. Ambassador Zextar, watching from the back of the chamber, made notes on his tablet. His report to the Zorian High Command would be difficult to write. How to explain that they had so completely misjudged these humans? The stars are no longer distant dreams, President Summers concluded. They are destinations, and humanity is ready to explore them, not as newcomers, but as returning children of an ancient legacy. The applause was thunderous. Earth had changed forever.